Very good morning. Welcome to the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Ashwarya with you. All the big stories from India and across the world coming up ahead. First up, a look at the top headlines. Prime Minister Modi pitches India as a key investment destination. At the meeting with heads of 40 leading global companies, highlights India's strengths, pledges personal intervention to address gaps. Prime Minister Modi meets heads of state of Caribbean countries, announces a $14 million grant for developmental projects in the Caribbean, $150 million line of credit for solar, renewable energy and climate change related projects. No problems talking to Pakistan, but India cannot talk to terroristan, asserts S Jaishankar. Addressing an event in New York, Foreign Minister asserts Islamabad has created an entire industry of terrorism in Kashmir. National Security Advisor Ajit Doval to review security situation in Kashmir Valley, focus on action for smooth implementation of government plans after withdrawal of Article 370. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, invited to form new Israel government, gets 28 days to put together government after power sharing talks with the strongest rival Benny Gantz fail. The top story this morning, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Wednesday called American businesses to invest in the Indian economy. He said that the government has taken many steps, including the recent cuts in corporate tax, to make the business environment conducive for them. The Prime Minister also assured global business leaders of his personal intervention to resolve any problems that they might face.
Addressing the Bloomberg Global Business Forum, Prime Minister Narendra Modi invited American investors to do business in India. He called the recent relaxation in corporate tax and the wealth of young talent in India unique selling points for business leaders.
आज भारत की जनता उस सरकार के साथ खड़ी है जो बिजनेस एनवायरनमेंट सुधारने के लिए बड़े से बड़े और कड़े से कड़े फैसले लेने में पीछे नहीं रहती। आज भारत में एक ऐसी सरकार है जो बिजनेस वर्ल्ड का सम्मान करती है, वेल्थ क्रिएशन का सम्मान करती है। साथियों, आपकी जानकारी में होगा कि अभी कुछ दिन पहले ही हमने कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स में भारी कमी करने का फैसला लिया है। ये निवेश के स्तर से बहुत क्रांतिकारी कदम है और इस फैसले के बाद मेरी बिजनेस वर्ल्ड में के जितने भी लोगों से बात हुई, जिनसे भी मुलाकात हुई, वो इसे बहुत ही ऐतिहासिक कदम मानते हैं।
Calling democracy, demography and decisive leadership compelling reasons to invest in India, Prime Minister Modi said an independent judiciary and the prevalence of English language are added advantages for investors.
If you want to invest in a market where the latest trend and futures are appreciated, come to India. Our youth are one of the largest users of the app economy. From food to transport and from movies to hyper-local delivery, startups are acing everything. Thus, if you want to invest in one of the world's largest infrastructure ecosystem, come to India.
Prime Minister Modi also promised business leaders that he would intervene personally to resolve troubles faced by them. Calling American technology and Indian talent an unbeatable combination, Prime Minister said a unique ID, mobile phone and bank accounts for all have ensured a transparent market in India. The Prime Minister also said that investments worth $286 billion have taken place in India, of which 40% were in greenfield areas. Akhilesh Suman's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Wednesday also held a meeting with 42 top US executives at the CEO Roundtable in New York. And at the meet, Prime Minister Modi highlighted the steps taken by India to build a $5 trillion economy. The global business community is also upbeat about the India success story. Top officials of Google, Apple, Amazon, Pepsi, Boeing, MetLife and GE attended the meeting.
India is moving towards a $5 trillion economy. The Honorable Finance Minister, under the guidance of Prime Minister Modi, has announced some really progressive and forward-looking tax breaks for new businesses that come to India and for the existing businesses. I think the stage is set for India to globally have its presence felt. All the enablers are there. As the Prime Minister said, we have a huge demographic dividend. We have a democracy in play. There's a huge demand with 1 billion people aspiring for a better quality of life. All the ingredients of a growing economy, an inviting atmosphere, an inviting ecosystem are available in India. And the sense we get after talking to various CEOs, various big businesses in America is that they are really eager to look at coming to India.
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi also met with the leaders of the Caribbean community and common market during the first ever India CARICOM Leaders Summit in New York. Now, this meet focused on fighting climate change and increasing India's participation with the grouping. Prime Minister Modi also announced a $14 million grant for community developmental projects in CARICOM and another $150 million line of credit for solar, renewable energy and climate change related projects. The Prime Minister also invited them to join the International Solar Alliance and the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. The CARICOM grouping has 15 member states and 5 associate members. CARICOM countries came together in 1973 to form an economic and political community that works jointly to shape policies for that region and encourages economic growth and trade.
आज की बैठक का फोकस CARICOM देशों के साथ भारत की भागीदारी को अतीत के अनुभव, वर्तमान की आवश्यकताओं और भविष्य की आकांक्षाओं के अनुसार एनर्जाइज करना है। इस संदर्भ में मुझे विश्वास है कि आज की चर्चा में बहुत उपयोगी विचार होगा।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi held a series of bilateral meetings on the sidelines of the 74th United Nations General Assembly in New York, including with his counterparts from Armenia, Nikol Pashinyan, and New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern. In his meeting with the Armenian Prime Minister on Wednesday, Prime Minister Modi stressed on the need to considerably enhance the volume of bilateral trade and investment. He also expressed interest of Indian companies to explore opportunities in IT, agro-processing, pharmaceuticals, tourism and other sectors of Armenia. The Prime Minister sought Armenia's support for concluding an expeditious trading agreement between India and the Eurasian Economic Union, of which Armenia is a member. India and the Eurasian Economic Union are set to start negotiations on this soon. During the meeting, both sides reviewed the bilateral relations between the two countries and expressed satisfaction at their steady growth. And Prime Minister Modi also met New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern and discussed bilateral ties. Strengthening a valued friendship, Prime Minister Modi also held a meeting with the President of Estonia, Karstikau Joled, and This meeting again on the sidelines of the 74th session of UNGS Summit in New York. Prime Minister Modi also held a meeting with his counterparts from Belgium, Charles Michel, on Wednesday. Both leaders agreed to intensify efforts on early conclusion of negotiations on the bilateral investment and trade agreement and enhance a closer cooperation on counter-terrorism, multilateral institutions and migration. He also congratulated Prime Minister Charles Michel on his election as the President of the European Council. The two leaders also agreed that the 15th India-EU Summit should be held at an early date. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also congratulated the first astronaut from UAE who went on into space on Wednesday. In a tweet, Prime Minister Modi said that it is going to be a fabulous journey into outer space by Hazza. He also lauded the vision of Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed. He said that India takes inspiration from this feat of a good and close friend for its own human space flight program, which will take an Indian into space on an Indian spacecraft by the year 2022. Hazza Al-Mansouri became the first astronaut from the UAE to fly to the International Space Station on Wednesday. Let's get to some other news now. External Affairs Minister S Jaishankar on Wednesday said that India has no problem in talking to Pakistan, but it does have a problem in interacting and holding a dialogue with Terroristan. Now, speaking at the interactive session of Council of Foreign Relations, Foreign Minister S Jaishankar said that Pakistan was a challenging neighbor. He stressed that while there is terrorism globally, there is no country in the world that sponsors terrorism consciously and deliberately against its neighbor.
It's a very challenging neighbor. Okay. Now, all of that you could still handle if they then don't do the one thing which is actually unacceptable in the world today, which is to conduct terrorism as, in their eyes, a legitimate tool of statecraft, as a way of pressurizing you to come to the negotiating table. Now, it's not that it's never been done before in history, but it's not today acceptable as a sort of norm of international relations anymore. There's no part in the world, I mean, you have terrorism in different parts of the world, but there's no part of the world where a country uses it consciously, deliberately as a large-scale industry against its neighbor. So for me, the issue is not, do you talk to them, don't you talk to them? Of course, I mean, everybody wants to talk to the neighbor. The issue is, how do I talk to a country that is conducting terrorism and which, frankly, I would say follows a policy of implausible deniability.
The External Affairs Minister met with the foreign ministers of G4 countries. That includes India, Japan, Germany and Brazil. S Jaishankar held bilateral also meetings with his counterparts from China, Australia and Ukraine and discussed a variety of issues such as energy, technology and boosting bilateral ties. He also met a Czech Foreign Minister of Albania, Italian Foreign Minister and Belarus's Foreign Minister. He also met with the leaders of Gulf Cooperation Council. In Breakfast News, we'll take a very short break. We'll be right back with more news. Don't go anywhere.
3 million people have now given the thumbs up to Rajya Sabha television. RSTV's growth has been phenomenal, with the journey from 2 million to 3 million being completed in less than 6 months. That's over 6,200 new subscribers every day. Our online viewers are engaging with us more actively. Every day, thousands like, share and comment on our videos. So come and join this growing tribe of RSTV viewers and get ready for an exciting journey.
Enter the majestic forecourt of Rashtrapati Bhavan and you'll come across the Jaipur column. A gift to the Viceroy from Savai Madho Singh, the Maharaja of Jaipur, to commemorate the creation of the new capital. The 145-meter high column is crowned with 6 pointed crystal stars on a bronze lotus, and inside the stone shaft runs a steel tube which weighs a little more than 5 tons. The base of the column has text conceived by Lord Irwin and Sir Edwin Lutyens inscribed on it.
Welcome back after the break. National Security Advisor Ajit Doval is in the Kashmir Valley to take stock of the situation there. Now, this is his second visit to the Kashmir Valley since the abrogation of Jammu and Kashmir's special status. He will also decide on the future course of action for the smooth implementation of government plans after the withdrawal of Article 370. During his visit, Ajit Doval will meet top security officials and take stock of security and development-related activities in the state, which will be converted into 2 union territories, Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, on 31st of October. Earlier, the NSA had camped for 11 days in the Kashmir Valley after the centre announced its decision to withdraw the special status. The NSA has been closely monitoring the situation and ensuring smooth coordination between all arms of the security forces in the hinterland as well as along the line of control. More news on Jammu and Kashmir. BJP Working President JP Nadda reiterated on Wednesday that the abrogation of Article 370 will help Jammu and Kashmir's complete integration with the Union, and terrorism there will be ended and it will usher in development. Addressing a gathering in New Delhi, he said that residents of the region will now be able to join the mainstream. He further said that the abrogation of the special status of Kashmir under Article 370 could happen because of the willpower of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the strategy of Union Home Minister Amit Shah.
यह एक ऐतिहासिक मौके के हम गवाह हैं, हम उसके चश्मदीद गवाह हैं, और यह हमारा धर्म बन जाता है, हमारी ये जिम्मेवारी बनती है कि हम जन जन तक पहुंचाएं कि धारा 370 का क्या अर्थ बनता था और धारा 370 के जाने से क्या अर्थ बनता है, यह हमको बताना चाहिए। मैं देखता हूं नरेंद्र मोदी जी ह्यूस्टन में बैठे हुए हैं और 50,000 लोग, कुर्सियां कम पड़ गई उनको सुनने के लिए, और वहां से कहते उनके लिए ताली बजाओ जिसने 370 पे अपना मत दिया। तो हम भी खड़े हो गए, हमको लग रहा था कि हमारे खातिर बोलत बड़े, ऐसा लग रहा था कि मेरे लिए बोल रहे हैं, इसलिए मेरा आज स्वागत करने का भाव और भी प्रबल हो गया है।
The government has reconstituted Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister for a period of 2 years. The council has come into effect from today. Vivek Debroy continues as the chairman and Ratan P. Vatal remains the member secretary of the reconstituted EACPM. The EACPM also has 2 part-time members, Ashima Goel and Sajid Chinoy. The EACPM was revived in September 2017 with a term of 2 years. The council was tasked with analysing any issue, economic or otherwise, referred to it by the Prime Minister. On to some other news. 7 people were killed after a wall collapsed in the Shankar Nagar area in Pune following heavy rainfall there. Several low-lying areas in and around Pune were flooded as heavy rains lashed the city on Wednesday. Waterlogging was reported in Sringad Road, Dhanakwadi, Balaji Nagar, Ambegaon, Shankar Nagar, Parvati, Kolewadi and Kiratwari. All the schools and colleges in the nearby areas, namely in Baramati, Bhor and Haveli Tehsil, have been shut due to heavy rains in the region. And death toll in the earthquake that hit Pakistan-occupied Kashmir's Mirpur on Tuesday evening has now risen to 38. Over 450 people have been injured in the earthquake. The epicenter of the earthquake, measuring 5.8 on the Richter scale, was 140 kilometers from Srinagar, and tremors of the earthquake were also felt in Delhi NCR, Chandigarh, Kashmir, parts of Himachal Pradesh, as well as several towns in Pakistan, including Islamabad, Lahore, and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa range. On to the other big story that we are tracking this morning. The Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda has assured that diamond businessman Mehul Choksi will be ultimately deported after exhausting all his appeals. Gatson Brown said that Choksi will be extradited back to India to face whatever charges are against him. He also said that Indian officials are free to investigate Mehul Choksi based on his willingness to participate. Remember, Mehul Choksi is wanted in India in the 13,500 crore rupees Punjab National Bank scam. He was granted citizenship in the Caribbean nation in January last year.
In any case, our officials acted based on information from India, made him a citizen, only to be told subsequently that he's a crook. Now, what I can assure you is that ultimately he will be deported after he would have exhausted all of his appeals, or he will be repatriated for that matter, or extradited back to India to face whatever charges you have against him. So it's just a matter of time.
On to the other top story that we are tracking. Bulgaria's Kristalina Georgieva has been elected as the new head of the International Monetary Fund, or the IMF. Now she becomes the first person from the emerging market economy to lead the IMF. The 66-year-old economist who succeeds Christine Lagarde has been appointed for a period of 5 years, started on 1st of October. Georgieva was the World Bank CEO since January 2017, and she was the interim president for the World Bank Group from 1st of February this year to 8th of April. And on to the other international news. Israel's president on Wednesday asked Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to form a new government after last week's deadlocked elections. His office announced. The announcement followed a joint meeting between President Reuven Rivlin, Prime Minister Netanyahu, and the Premier's challenger, Benny Gantz. Netanyahu will now have 28 days to form a government with a possible 2-week extension, and if all attempts fail, then Israel's president can ask someone else to form the government. The president has been urging Netanyahu and Benny Gantz to form a unity government, but a compromise appears a long way off. Remember, final results from 17th of September elections gave Benny Gantz centrist Blue and White Party 33 seats ahead of Netanyahu's Likud Party that got 32 seats out of Parliament's 120. Neither, therefore, has a clear path to a majority coalition. Netanyahu received the endorsement of 55 members of parliament for the post of prime minister after the election, while Benny Gantz received 54. Let's get you some sports news now. Parupalli Kashyap was the lone Indian to survive in the singles event after star shuttlers PV Sindhu, Saina Nehwal and B Sai Praneeth made their first round exits at the Korea Open Badminton Tournament on Wednesday. Parupalli Kashyap registered a comfortable victory, that is 21-16, 21-16 over Liu Chi-hung of Chinese Taipei in the men's singles match that lasted 42 minutes. The first round casualties for India included world champion PV Sindhu, who bowed out of the tournament after going down 7-21, 24-22, 15-21 at the hands of USA's Biving Zan. B Sai Praneeth and Saina Nehwal both retired hurt in their respective first round matches. Sai Praneeth and Saina Nehwal cited health reasons. And in cricket, in women's cricket, India will take on South Africa in the second game of the T20 series in Surat today. India started the 5-match T20 series against South Africa with an 11-run win at Surat on Monday and therefore is leading the series 1-0. And with that, we wrap up this edition of Breakfast News. Thanks for watching. Have a great day ahead.